everyone, welcome back to Louise Plus 10 and welcome to my new subscribers. It's great to have you all on board. I hope you're all enjoying the content and hopefully you're getting some motivation from my channel. I just want to update you on the granddaughter. She is 2 days late today. I've told my daughter-in-law she needs to serve a Section 21 eviction notice because I think she's just way too comfortable in there. If we can all have some good thoughts for my daughter-in-law, a few prayers. We all know what it's like to be heavily pregnant and carry that heavy load around, and then you go overdue, and you know what, to add this heat to the package, it is just not very nice for her at the minute. So hopefully, fingers crossed, she's going to have that baby soon and she's going to arrive safely and she can get her body back, which we're all grateful of, aren't we, when we've had a baby. Today we're talking about routine and organisation. I have lost count of the amounts of times people have said to me, how, Louise, did you manage with 10 children? How did you manage to keep such a clean home? Well, do you know what? Years ago, I never had any routine or organisation skills. I was the mum that would arrive 5 minutes late after the school bell to the school with the kids in tow, screaming and shouting. I was the one that was running down the road with my kids in tow because I was 5 minutes late to an appointment. And this is why we need routine and organisation in our life when we're raising a family. It's not just about being able to keep a house clean. It's about living everyday life, making sure you're on time for things, making sure you're not running around like a headless chicken in the morning. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk to you about a few things that I always put in place, and if you get any help from that, then that is absolutely fantastic. So one of the things I was always really strict about was bedtime routines. You know, having your kids up late, the kids not having a good routine makes them crabby, it makes them tantrum, and it can make life pretty unbearable because it really is hard work listening to a child tantruming and screaming and crying. When I had my first 4 kids, my routine was not very good at all with bedtimes. To be honest with you, it was in the beginning, but as they got a little bit older, I mean, when Hallam was 10 months old, he was my second child. He had a really bad virus and his temperature was very severely high. And I put him in my bed just so I could keep an eye on him and look after him a bit more, as you do, because you love your kids and you want to know they're okay. But that was the worst thing that I could ever have done, because after that it took years to get him out of my bed. Bradley and Hallam used to share a bedroom, and when Hallam was about 3, he was still climbing into my bed. And I would get straight up, put him back to his bed, but then he became wise to that. So there was many a times I'd wake up in the night and he was at the end of my bed, because he thought, if I just sneak into the end of the bed, Mum won't put me back. That was his way of thinking. And then because Bradley would wake up and be scared because Alan wasn't there, he would then come and join him. So at that moment in time, I had a newborn baby, an 11-month-old, and then a 3 and 5-year-old. And I'll tell you what, it was really, really hard work. Not only was I getting up to a newborn, but I was being awoken by them pair getting in my bed. So yeah, it was a nightmare, and it just goes to show you that, you know, you really do need routine. So after my 4th child, I thought to myself, do you know what, if I ever have any more children, it is going to be so different. And from my 5th baby onwards, it really was. So routine at bedtime, as I say, it's really important, but I started from when they were babies. So when they were old enough to go into their own room, into a cot in their own room, I would never give them milk sort of to fall to sleep with. What I always used to do is I used to sit on my sofa, I would feed them their last bottle at the night, and then I would put the baby in the cot in the bedroom, and I would just give them a kiss and walk out the room. And they were really, really used to this routine from being really little. If you start giving them drinks through the night, they then associate falling to sleep with having a bottle. And then you'll find they'll start waking up through the night for a bottle. I never ever put lights on because then all of a sudden you've got a child that cannot sleep without a light, and your electric bill, especially right now, I'm sure it'll be sky high leaving lights on all night long. When they got a bit older, it wasn't just about the bedtime routine, it was about the whole routine leading up to bedtime. So they would have their evening meal, they would play around for half hour, let the food go down a bit, and then they would have a nice hot bubble bath, then they would brush their teeth. I would take them to bed, read them a story, and then I would walk out the room and they would go to sleep. It was always important not to have distractions in the bedroom. So when they were little, they didn't have toys, they didn't have TVs, etc. because it's too much of a distraction. So if you make the room as boring as you can, all they're going to want to do is go to sleep. Anyway, it always worked. It was fabulous. They would go to sleep about 7 o'clock and then they would wake up about 6 o'clock. So they were getting a good 11 hours sleep. They weren't crabby, they weren't tantruming, they weren't tired. Everything was hunky-dory. Another thing that I always did was I always had like set meal times. This stopped the kids being hungry and wanting to snack on crap food, junk food. They would have their breakfast about 6:30, 7 in the morning. They would then have their lunch maybe about 12:30. And then they would have the tea about 4:30, 5. But you have to make sure your routine is good, because if you are running late one day and you've not thought about dinner, what then happens is your kids get really crabby, they get upset, they tantrum. When they're younger, they can't tell you what's wrong with them. They can't say, oh, I'm hungry. They know the belly hurts and they tend to just scream and cry and tantrum. I always made sure I was on the ball with that. I always started preparing dinner before it was due, so that it would be ready when dinner was due, if that makes sense. And it always worked a treat. I didn't mind them having snacks in between meals if it was a bit of fruit. When they're younger, they burn off more energy, so they do tend to be more hungry. But I always tried to stick to the 3 meals a day, and I would let them snack after meals if they were hungry. Another thing I used to do was, if ever they were at school the next day, or you had an appointment, or God knows what it was, but you had to be out the next day, I always made sure that everything was ready the day before. That prevented all the running around in a tiz the next day. So when they came home from school, I'd take the shoes off them, they'd take the uniform off, they'd get some play clothes on. And while they were getting the play clothes on, I would line all the school shoes up and I would polish them straight away. I'd then line them up at the top of my stairs over my banister. I'd put the shoes on the floor, and all the clean uniform and clean underwear, etc. was all lined all over the banister, folded dead neatly over the banister, from oldest to youngest, or youngest to oldest. I can't remember the exact pattern. But the next day we didn't have to faff around, running around like headless chickens looking for everything. We knew exactly where everything was polished, everything was ready, the book bags were ready, everything was ready. So all I had to do the next morning was get them up, give them the breakfast, then they'd have a wash and brush the teeth, then they'd get all the uniform on, and they were ready. Lunch boxes I always tried to do the day before. If not, I'd do them while they were eating the breakfast in the morning. I would always be up early and be dressed and everything done anyway. And while the elder kids were getting breakfast, I'd be getting the babies ready. So again, their clothes would have been placed out the night before. So we were always prepared. Another thing, always make sure you leave early. You know, you just never know what's going to get in the way. Whether you're walking, whether you're driving, you just don't know what you're going to encounter. Never be the person that is late for anything. Do you know, I cannot stand it if I am waiting for someone to come to my house, some appointment with somebody, and you're waiting around and you're next to the window and you're looking out for them and they're always late, guaranteed. And there's nothing I can stand worse than someone being late for something. I can't hack it, because it's one thing I've never ever done. I've always been so organised, unless you cannot help it. I mean, unless you've come across, I don't know, something on the way which is, you know, really made you late and you really couldn't have avoided it. But always, always leave early. It is better to be early than it is be late. I'm hoping I've ran through, you know, a few things that I did when I was bringing my family up. I'm hoping it may help you in some way. But those are the things that, you know, particularly helped me, I would say, raising a family. Just remember, if you've got no routine and you've got no organisation, you are never going to have time to clean your house or keep your house tidy, let alone live day-to-day life, you know. You've always got to be one step ahead. You've always got to be thinking ahead, always be prepared, and I'm sure it will make a big difference in your life. Right, I'm going to go, guys. I'm going to go and get some shorts on, and I'm going to go and sit in the sun with my kids and my family. It's my day off, and I'm going to go and lap a bit of sun up and, yeah, enjoy my afternoon. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope it's going to help you a little bit. Thank you so much for watching, and you take care. Bye.